Ugh, there's too much light. My blessed mess forsaken! These fairy tales are monster waves of dull and dry, a lifeless dream. I'll go bleak, I'll craft 'em dark to make 'em grim. That's my hallmark. My guts fill up with pretty tales. Their prissy cuteness never fails to make me puke, to lose my wits, lost my teeth and give me fits. Out the rancid, stale and foul, despise the happy ending. Gross and nasty, make me howl, though they may be offending. I'm here to build true tales of light, of fear and woe, bring back the light. I ain't dumb luck, but tore up tuck. My humble goal is to run the Ever ready to exploit tales of the capricious missteps in nature's grand journey? The brothers eschew their usual dwarves or gnomes to set their lesson, and settle instead on a hero smaller than an infant platypus. Thumbling, no bigger than an elephant turd, plays at being a courageous mite.
Father, I must leave the shop and find something useful to do with my life.
It's a wicked world, my son. But go if you must.
Don't try to talk me out of it.
Not if my life depended on it. Perhaps the novelty of protecting his child from the claws of the family cat is worn thin.
Did you break wind? Whoa! Bye, Father!
There goes Thumbling, seeking his fortune, whether he wants to or not. Out on his own, his principal challenge is to avoid being squashed. He tries several crafts to make a living. Doesn't make much. Currently, he's teaching horses to haul.
Here, no, Nelly, no, not that way. This nag couldn't find its hind quarters. I'll put a bug in her ear, so to speak.
Not very inventive, but effective nonetheless.
Now giddy up the right way, or I'll take you to the glue factory. Giddy up, I say.
I hear a cart driver, but I don't see him. Is it a spirit?
No, you don't. The driver's standing in a horse's ear.
Now that's passing strange. Hark, little fella, come join our circus. We'll treat you well, and you'll make a load of money.
Oh boy, a circus. What would I have to do to earn it?
Just be you.
Sounds easy.
With more experience of the world, Thumbling might have seen through this offer, but there'd be even less of a story to tell. This perhaps was not the circus Thumbling had in mind. There's so little honesty in the world, but the fleas promise not to bite.
It's all fine for you lot. You're more athletic than me. I know. How about we put on a show? I'll be Hamlet and...
No offense, Thumbling, but I prefer my Princess of Denmark a bit larger. And juicier, too.
Okay. But I call first on the wheel next time.
Sure, fine, no problem. You'll break it, you clumsy git. One's perception of job satisfaction can alter so very quickly. Having escaped the dubious pleasures of the circus, Tiny Thumbling becomes a quarry to a domestic beast.
Blasted feline! Dumb as the proverbial post. Can't tell a human from a mouse. Do I have a tail, I ask you? Do I have whiskers?
You'd prefer she make a snack of one of us? Be grateful you found shelter in our home. Together we could turn you out. Try your argument on her.
My apologies. I don't think she would listen to reason.
He leaves eventually, of course. Even a tiny person can only stand so much proximity to mouse feces. Still, his escape is bound to be an out-of-the-frying-pan into-the-fire situation.
I want out of here. Smells terrible, and I'm moving toward the intestines.
This cow is bewitched. I'll carve her into pieces and make a black
Who did from her innards?
The butcher's a dolt, but with luck, I'll just relax a bit and make my escape in the pudding.
That's about all he's got. Despite being poked, prodded, stabbed and smoked, Thumbling makes his escape, a little worse for wear, and returns home not much wiser, no more fortunate. Oh, joy. Well, it's rather pointless, isn't it? Young lad leaves home to seek his fortune, has adventures of a sort, but fails totally. Had he been full-sized, he would have failed in other ways. Perhaps more interesting ones. Let's see if we can make better sense of this mess. When Thumbling threatens to leave his family, it's fair to wonder why. His life here seems so cozy and safe. A pint-sized person would need a very good reason to run away from such comfort. I believe I can help. Make it loose. Get it on!
Hello everyone and welcome back to American McGee's Grimm. I am your mad host as always, and this is the tale of Thumbling. Quite an interesting tale because in its own way, the story itself has been reinvented several different times depending on the medium and the person telling it, just to kind of make things a bit more interesting, I suppose would be a good general term. But yes, a lot of things change. But the main premise of the story is Thumbling is, well, a child that is born roughly about like the size of one's thumb, or smaller, but generally very small, and that's pretty much about it in his story. He's a very small child for the most part. And when he gets of age, he decides living with his father is, well, clearly not a lifestyle he wants to endure as easily. And so in order to try to make some sense of the world for his own, he decides to run away from home and, well, seek his fortune. The usual, like, hijinks that you hear or would expect from most of these stories. Well, unfortunately, with this version of the tale that we're going with, Thumbling himself kind of becomes none the wiser or improves his lot in life. He just kind of does things and nothing really much is accomplished because of it. So what if we were to alter that? You know? Make it a bit more worthwhile. Like in this case, he's just running away just because he feels like it, or he just doesn't, he wants to see the world, but, well, with the place looking this fine right now, why would you want to leave unless, well, there's a more sinister work at this point as I get absolutely murdered by the shears. Also, this is where the game kind of starts becoming a bit more unforgiving in terms of where you've been and not, because in this case, if you die at any point of this, you have to more or less retread back to the beginning of the run. But at least at this point, you're kind of starting to see why he would maybe leave with all the severed thumbs and, you know, various organs and whatnot. This is probably, I assume he would feel this would be a not safe place for a child of, or man of his stature to want to, well, live around, but that's neither here nor there, before there's some more we have to investigate in this place.
You see, Thumbling's at best bored, and the needle's nearly an instrument of torture. He can't master cross-stitching, he's a bit of a dreamer, and perhaps not so well loved as his full-sized brother. He wants out. Still, Miss Peter doesn't think he's ready for life on his own. Smarter than he looks, his dad. So Thumbling plots his own escape. Doesn't seem to be in much of a hurry, though. Well, if he wants to go, let's light a fire under his ass. Make it rotten.
Which, at this point, now we have a better picture of why, you know, Thumbling would want to probably leave his lot in life. He feels he's unappreciated. He's bored. There's not a whole lot he can do with his father's means of work. He can't. And on top of, again, the aforementioned unsafe place, he, again, feels unappreciated and wants to do the natural thing, really, and want to leave. Get on his own, do his own thing and whatnot. Figure out what his calling card is, and just generally leave the house that there is absolutely nothing he can do. But his father chooses, says, or believes at least, that Thumbling isn't ready. I mean, he might have a point. He could even be a very wise person. Who's to say, really? You can never be too sure. But Thumbling doesn't believe him, or I guess just doesn't have the patience to wait. And so, as we see here, he decides to plot an escape to, well, say, damn whatever the hell my father says, I'm going to do my own thing, and I will have my own adventure, and it will be amazing and fantastic. That's pretty much, in its briefness, that's pretty much what happens. So, we're gonna make this poor, stupid boy regret his decision and lot in life, and well, as you can tell, or where this is probably going, we're going to send him ablaze. So yes, this was the end of this scene, and as you probably have guessed, that is going to be the main gimmick of this tale, is we're going to be traveling in a very large, in a normal world, but a fraction of the size. So, without further ado, let us continue onwards with our next scene.
Thumbling's trying to display his horsemanship. But the nag Harper won't hear a thing from this end. There's an obvious path to his goal. It's certainly the road less traveled. Make it loose. Let's kill the clean.
So, I will say, I'll admit this openly. A question, the art of an question, or, well, the art of riding a horse is an admirable goal. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of practice, and quite generally, there's a lot that goes into it. I can't say that for myself that I've practiced it myself, but let's just say I've been well acquainted with other people who are well versed in it, actually. So it is an admirable goal, and it is actually not easy from what I can at least say within the utmost confidence. And so, when you had to deal with a horse that is, well, for lack of a better term, not the best of its kind, it's going to be much more difficult. And, well, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble trying to get past the constant sounds of a horse absolutely defecating himself. In a very explosive manner, I should say. It's like, I should be above this as like a high collar person myself, but even still, let's just, okay, you know what, forget whatever I was gonna say, let's just go up this donkey's ass. So yeah, I bet you didn't expect we're going to come enter the said horse from its literal gaping asshole. But well, if you honestly thought there'd be nothing else from that, you'd be sadly and miserably mistaken, I believe. And I would also say this: I envy your innocence and your naivete, because well, clearly you are living a dream. And again, I'll envy you for the most part. But yeah, here we are in the bowels of a donkey, or an old nagged horse. But we already know better. Also, the fact that I didn't die until now was amazing. But I guess I cannot have my cake and eat it at the same time without looking like an absolute fool, I suppose. Okay. Let's just tiptoe through the organs. Just try to get as much everything dark as possible. Also, isn't it lovely going through... I imagine for those of you who have not played this game, you would not have expected this game to go this way, of, you know, climbing up an old horse, going through an old horse's ear through its ass. And in truth, if I were to be honest with you, I didn't expect it either when I first played this game. I was rather speechless, I think would be an appropriate word. Can I say that? Yeah, I think I can. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, what do you honestly, like, what can you honestly say about this? Like, yeah, I'm in a horse's ass, and I'm climbing up its natural digestive system to reach its brain. Which, biologically speaking, that is somewhat impossible for the most part, at least. Or at least within certain reason, at least. I guess not technically impossible unless you just start breaking through a lot of like blood vessels and just kind of making your own natural way, but you end up possibly killing said horse. But I guess who am I to really argue in this case? Grimm, I think, would just cause a horse to explode if it would just make things dirtier and have a good laugh over it, as he pisses all over their entrails. But I mean, I guess in the end, Grimm will be Grimm, and who am I to argue, I suppose, eh? But at least we're out of that bit, and I guess looks like we're in the chest cavity, I believe. Whoop, okay. It's a little tricky kind of navigating through this part. At least to get it proper-ishly. Okay, okay, I was almost stuck in a singular direction for a second. That worried me, actually. So I'm mostly doing this as well, just so I can. Okay. Trying to get, again, since I'm trying to get like 100% darkness as well, I kind of have to go about this in an interesting manner. Alright, okay. It's not easy, unfortunately, I'll admit. Did I actually get that part of the rib? No, I did not. Tragic. There, that time we did. Okay, moving onwards then through this wonderful area. Can't you just feel the warmth and gentle embrace of this old nag? Alright, come on. Alright. Excuse me there, everyone. So yeah, that was the end of that tale of a not-so-fantastic voyage. And I think we'll end this off in the next scene, so let us continue on. So let us move on without further ado.
Having been shanghaied into service at the flea circus, Thumbling tries to fit in. The audience seems a little bored to me.
Roll up, come close, my friends, for the greatest show on earth! Greatest tiny show. Tiniest great show. Indeed.
I don't think these acts are death-defying enough. Let's make it really daring. Make it stinky.
And welcome everyone to a flea circus! If you do not know what a flea circus is, I am very much sorry for your innocence once again, and to enlighten anyone who is, it's pretty much like a circus but with fleas, and sometimes if not fleas, then it's usually the imagination of people trying to imagine that there are actually fleas, doing trapeze arts and all sorts of other assorted things, in a place that usually does not typically exist. In this case, we have a more legitimate flea circus with actual fleas doing things that, you know, you'd almost see at a circus, but to the entertainment of kids. And if there's one thing I can say with absolute confidence that I can tell you about kids, or at least as depicted by Grimm, kids are horrible, terrible people at their base core. And so, just a few circus acts and no one having the possibility of getting absolutely mutilated or, you know, extreme bodily harm, I imagine they'd be very bored. So, well, why don't we do a little bit something to change that up for them, eh? Give them the show of a lifetime, as it would be. Starting off with our wonderful juggler. He is well, as you would expect, he's a flea, but he is not just any ordinary flea. They don't really give him a name, but, well, or rather, they don't call him by name, but this is Horatio of the Swift Fingers. He's actually a rather good man, really good with his hands, really nice person at times. And he actually dreamt of being an accountant at one point. Kind of a dull dream, but he lives it up here in the circus, so let's see how he lives up now.
Marvelous! For your edification and delectation, I present our next thrilling event.
Make it gross.
And, well, unfortunately, our good friend is actually kind of died now. Mostly due to the fanfare of many a good performance. It just shows you how good of the craft he is. He's actually rather good, but, well, we won't be seeing him anymore. It's rather sad, unfortunately. But what can you do, really? When you're given such a crowd fare, I'm sure he'll be. And do note, he actually had a good family, so we'll be sure to keep in contact with his family and just kind of let them know that their husband has sadly passed away, and his 60 or so children are now without a father. And I'm sure they'll find a way to make ends meet in the end. But over here, as I fall through the gaps in the cards, our strong man! This man is actually rather burly. I mean, don't be mistaken by his size. He can actually bench press a good 50 pounds. We just kind of call him Hugo, unfortunately.
Stop.
For our next event, an entertainment that will leave you breathless. Those with weak hearts, avert your eyes.
Make it foul.
And of course, much to our terrible, unfortunate intermission again, Hugo the Strongman has unfortunately passed away due to a violent watermelon being dropped upon his person with the clumsy of a aerial bombing. He will be very much missed, but again, well, actually, we're gonna be probably out of business soon because you can't find a good strongman like him nowadays. Do you know how hard it is to find a flea who can lift 50 pounds on his own by literal bench pressing, or just sheer will of manly force? It's not easy, I can assure you. I am terribly sorry about that, everyone. If you notice an awkward cut between like this in this video, that would be because of, well, my recorder for some reason, in its infinite wisdom, suddenly decided to stop the recording and make a video file right then and there, which, well, yeah, that's basically the main reasoning for it. It's never done that before. I'm not sure why it did that on command. I'd be lying if I were not concerned. I will be looking into that again, but for now, I suppose at best I'll have to keep an eye on it for now. But without further ado, we have the Cannonball Act to perform, and well, say hello to, we call him, he is a regular daredevil. He's done this many times in his life, and he's never once died. They call him invincible. But for us, he is just good old Roman.
Ladies and gentlemen, for our next event, an entertainment that will leave you breathless.
Make it rotten.
Oh, so, yeah, Roman may actually be in fact dead now. We really are losing our staff so quickly. I can't understand why. We had such a good crew. But as you saw there is a secret to be acquired if you can do so. We really need to do something about that. Oh well, I'm sure it can't happen a fourth time. That would just be absolutely silly. So, prepare yourselves and be amazed at the high-flying act. He is a man who has defied death many a times, falling from great heights, including one from like a giant kitchen counter. He is... well, he really doesn't tell us much of his name. He's kind of a quiet guy, so we just kind of call him Bob.
Ladies and gentlemen, how can we top that? You might well ask. Direct your attention to our next event.
Make it nasty.
Bob, no! Oh, damn it, why is everyone around us dying? First Horatio, then Hugo, then Roman, now Bob. And the kids and the crowd's actually not liking this. They look actually kind of miserable, to be fair, and they've been throwing all sorts of vegetables. I mean, that's kind of normal, but they've been actually actively killing the circus. We're not gonna have an extra act like afterwards. What are we gonna do? We're gonna be out of business. It's a tragic state of things. Like, we had a great plan and everything. There was going to be like pyrotechnics. We didn't even get the chance to show the sword swallower to do what he does best. Soloing like claymores that are like 100 times his size, and yet he still manages to swallow it very well. I think Alright, hello, sorry, I seem to be having a lot more technical difficulties in this particular half of the video of this tale than I have ever in this entire series. For now, that was my mic cord unplugging itself. This is rather awkward and tragic, so I think I'm going to do what is best for my shame we're gonna get this over with. Because I know a certain ringmaster who has some explaining to do as to why this place has been kind of going to shit. Our wondrous headmaster, who apparently has, I guess, decided to turn this into a suicidal circus, the Suicide Circus, at the very last minute. Wasn't planned, I should mention to you. He and I had an agreement upon this, and I looked very hard to find all those performers beforehand. And what does he do? He throws them away and has them all get murdered. Well, Hugo, it wasn't his fault. He was just kind of there. It wasn't Hugo's fault the watermelon fell on him, I suppose. But still, you get money for these guys. You know how hard it is to find half of those people? Not easy. You have to do a lot of terrible favors, and well, yeah, I mean that. I hope the headmaster gets exactly what he deserves, because that headmaster is horrible, terrible, extortionist as well. So, without further ado, in this carnival of death, I'm hoping to show you all a good time, but I suppose not. Here is your ringmaster. He doesn't even deserve me to call him by his name.
And the crowd goes wild. Blood sells seats and keeps the crowd hungry for more. The story is always time.
And with that, I think it's best to call it a video. So, until we will continue onwards with Thumbling in the next episode. So, until then, everyone, take care. Bye.